Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this incredibly important announcement. I want to acknowledge a number of our distinguished guests who are here with us today, starting with our New York State Budget Director, who will be speaking in a few moments, Robert Mujica. We're also joined representing, these are the two representatives of this district, so I want to thank them, our Senator Phil Boyle, and our Assemblyman, Phil Ramos. We're also joined from the State Assembly by Assemblyman Dave McDonough, Assemblyman Mike Fitzpatrick, Assemblyman Andy Rea, and Assemblyman Chuck Levine. We're also joined by Suffolk County Sheriff Errol Toulon, as well as Suffolk County Police Commissioner Jerry Hart, and Chief of Department Stu Cameron. We, of course, are here in the great town of Islip with our partner, Town of Islip Supervisor Angie Carpenter. And representing this community in the Suffolk County Legislature, and I want to thank her, Suffolk County Legislator Monica Martinez. Thank you, Monica. Also joined by our Deputy Presiding Officer Rob Calarco, Legislator Bill Lindsay, Legislator Sue Berland, Legislator Tom Donnelly, and Legislator Sarah Anker. Thank you to my colleagues in the Suffolk County Legislature. We're honored to be joined by our Secretary of State, Rosanna Rosado, New York State Police Superintendent, George Beach, our Commissioner of New York State Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, Rose Harvey, and our Regional Director, Wayne Horsley, the former presiding officer of the legislature. Our great partners in the Brentwood School District, our Superintendent, Rich Lochner. And I see from Central Islip, Superintendent Howard Koenig. I want to recognize him as well. And to all of our friends in labor, and I see John Durso, the President of the Long Island Federation of Labor here. John, it's good to see you. Thank you. And to all our friends in labor, to all of our community leaders, educators, advocates, thank you all for being here. Thank you for the amazing work that you do. It is an absolute pleasure for me, once again, to be welcoming back to Suffolk County, and specifically to this community, Governor Cuomo. As we know from the beginning, the governor has been here with us, whatever the circumstance, whatever the emergency. We are here, of course, on the anniversary of Superstorm Sandy, and again, talking about an event that the governor was there with us, but he's been every time we have a emergency. He's been there to work with us protecting our environment, helping to build our infrastructure to grow our economy. And he has been an incredible leader in the fight against MS-13. And I will tell you right from the start, he was there to provide law enforcement resources, to work with our local law enforcement, Suffolk County Police Department, to win this fight. But the governor understood from the very beginning that this was not just about law enforcement, but this was about how we provide a community support around the vulnerable kids who are being targeted by this criminal organization. And again, I want to thank all of the community advocates, the members of the working group who are here, and all of you have been working for so long on these issues. And I want you to know the governor has been there and been with us every step of the way, and including when we were here not too long ago, when the governor was announcing a number of gang prevention programs and support programs for our kids. There was a great advocate who was here with us, Evelyn Rodriguez, who we've lost. Well, we lost an incredible voice, but it's our obligation to carry on her work. And the governor is here today and doing that. And I can't thank him enough. So, Governor, thank you. And it is now my pleasure to talk about the announcement here today, our New York State Budget Director, Robert Mujica. Robert, thank you.
Good afternoon. The scourge of the violent MS-13 gang has struck fear into our communities, but today we are here to double down on our efforts to fight back. As we've seen in communities like Brentwood, MS-13 has committed horrific and senseless murders of our students and our young people, including at least 24 homicides on Long Island since January of 2016. The sheer brutality of these murders is designed to intimidate the entire community. Using fear, MS-13 preys on kids who are economically disadvantaged, socially isolated, and afraid in a new country. As a result, we've stepped up law enforcement efforts on Long Island, working closely with our partners to crack down on MS-13. Last year, we announced new anti-gang initiatives through the New York State Police, assigning 25 members to focus on dismantling MS-13's network. We established an 11-member state police community assistance team to identify and respond to hotspots and collaborate with local law enforcement partners. This year, the state delivered nearly $2.5 million to local law enforcement agencies to reduce violence. And we invested more than $19 million to support at-risk youth programming to cut off the MS-13 gang recruitment pipeline amongst our youth. In New York, we have zero tolerance for gang violence, and today we are announcing a new $20 million plan to combat MS-13. The $20 million plan includes $15 million for a new community hub in Brentwood, $2.5 million for a comprehensive park safety initiative, $1 million for law enforcement technology, $1 million for an apprenticeship program for at-risk youth, and $500,000 for mental health initiatives in our schools. I'll begin with the $15 million hub. Our children, 19,000 students in Brentwood School District, don't have access to a centralized modern community space. For years, community leaders have called for a centralized community center to coordinate social services and to provide year-round youth recreational activities and educational opportunities for at-risk youth. But the county lacked the funding to get started. So today we are taking action. The governor is committing $15 million to make the community hub a reality. We will grant $15 million to Suffolk County to build a new one-stop shop community hub in Brentwood. New York State, Suffolk County, and the town of Islip will co-lead a 90-day community planning process, establishing the ideal location, the resources necessary, the amenities, and who the local partners will be. County Executive Ballone, Town Supervisor Carpenter, and Secretary of State Rosanna Rosado will co-chair this effort. We will leverage the existing county-led Brentwood Central Islip Community Committee, including the 40 community-based organizations as partners, because the community knows best what the community needs. Next, we will provide $2.5 million for a park safety initiative. MS-13-related violence in parks has plagued the communities across Long Island, and MS-13 has seized these once safe places and used them instead as recruiting grounds. New York State is launching a $2.5 million comprehensive park safety initiative, including enhanced park lighting and surveillance and new dedicated state police patrols. We are investing more than $500,000 at Brentwood State Park to add over 225 new lights and up to 10 new surveillance cameras. Nearly $2 million will go to the county-wide for local parks to install hundreds of additional lights and up to 100 new surveillance cameras. The Law Enforcement Technology Initiative will provide additional surveillance cameras because they have proven to be invaluable in crime detection and prosecution. Yet Suffolk's existing network of 26 cameras is insufficient for tracking increasingly mobile MS-13 members. New York State will invest $1 million to double the number of cameras to 51 and to add additional security technology to support Suffolk County. Next, we will provide $1 million for a new apprenticeship program for at-risk youth. Providing alternatives to gang activity is crucial to cutting off the MS-13 recruitment pipeline. We will invest $1 million in a new apprenticeship program that will connect at-risk youth with job training and employment opportunities, and will provide a full spectrum of services that will serve up to 100 kids for up to 2 years. $500,000 will be provided for a mental health initiative. New York is going to step up its guarantee that our students and schools have the resources and support they need when dealing with this type of violence. We will award $50,000 in direct grants to both Brentwood High School and the Freshman Center, and we will provide $450,000 to expand the SNUG program and other outreach programs focusing on victim assistance and counseling. New York is taking a smart, bold, balanced approach to fighting MS-13 and providing an opportunity for our youth. It is now my pleasure to introduce the 56th Governor of New York State, Governor Andrew Cuomo, who will not rest until MS-13 is erased from Long Island.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. Let's give Rob Mahika a big round of applause for putting this together. County Executive Steve Ballone, whose leadership has been phenomenal all across the board, but especially in this area. Steve Ballone. Superintendent George Beach from the State Police. Thank you very much, Superintendent. Sheriff Toulon, thank you for everything you're doing. Let's give the sheriff a big round of applause. To Angie Carpenter, who once again steps up to the plate and makes everything happen. Angie Carpenter, thank you. And to all my colleagues in the legislature and local officials who are here, County Executive went through the acknowledgement list, and if you start, you get into trouble. These are difficult days that we are focusing on, not just MS-13, but obviously the past week has really been frightening and atrocious on a very basic level. Just when you think you've seen it all, you realize there's even more hatred, more anger, more violence than you thought imaginable. So if you don't mind, let's start with a few moments of silence for the victims of violence over this past weekend in Pittsburgh and Kentucky, and their families who are enduring the pain and suffering right now. Thank you. Thank you very much. The theory, commonality, when you look at a lot of these issues, it's complicated. There's mental health issues. There's a misunderstanding. There's an anger that's boiling. There's a hatred that is festering, that is then communicating and feeding on itself through various communication networks. And there are people who wrap themselves in the flag as Americans and then go out and do violence in the name of America and in the thought and belief that they are Americans and they're acting the way a true American should act. In school, one of the first things we learn about America is when the students are asked to raise their hand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would ask everyone just to remember what that Pledge of Allegiance says about America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Whether you believe in the Jewish faith, if you are African American, whatever your religion, whatever your race, whatever your creed, indivisible. That's the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you are an American, that's what that flag means. And if you want to honor the flag and you want to be an American, then honor that pledge. And anyone who seeks to divide, anyone who seeks to separate, anyone who tries to segregate who is worthy and who is unworthy, that is not an American as we have defined it in this nation. And let's remember that. So we offer our prayers, and Lord knows we have work to do. But we also have work to do here today in Suffolk, in Brentwood, and we have things to accomplish, not just prayers, but things to do. I believe in my religion, when you die, you get to the pearly gates, you meet our Maker at the pearly gates, and he says, well, what have you done with your time on earth? Your X number of years. In my case, if I would have died today, your 21 years. What did you do with your 21 years? He doesn't ask, what did you try to do? He didn't ask, how many press releases did you put out about what you may do? He or she asks, what did you actually accomplish? And depending on that answer, I believe you either go up or you go down. So it is about accomplishment. Those of us in public service, we enter public service. Why? Because that is a vehicle to make a difference. You can actually get something done. Yes, you can advocate and you can give a speech and you can fight, but you can also get it done. You can make things happen. And what we need more than anything now is to make things happen. MS-13. It is a scourge. Yes, it has taken too many young lives. It has affected too many innocents. The work that has been done here by the advocacy community, the community groups working with law enforcement, all that coordination has been magnificent. But it still exists, and we still have more to do. First issue is law enforcement, because public safety is job one. And every child, every parent has to know that we are protecting their life and their liberty, and that is a law enforcement task, period. We have seen tragic killings, brutal, savage killings. Nisa Mickens, Kayla Cuevas, children. And any group any thug that would kill children, that is a public safety risk like no other. And we're going to respond with the most sophisticated, coordinated public safety response that we have had. And it's going to be the state police, working together with county police, working together with community groups, working together with schools, all together to have the single best, most coordinated law enforcement response ever in the state of New York. From the Parks Police, putting in lights and cameras, some cameras you'll see, some cameras you won't see. So be careful what you do in the parks. Just assume you are on camera. I'll leave it at that. Parks Police, working with the state police, state-of-the-art technology. So much of law enforcement now is about the technology. License plate readers on cars, surveillance cameras that go back to a central dispatch, cameras that can be viewed and monitored on a screen in a police car. That's the technology that we're paying for. So the most sophisticated law enforcement response ever. And we have already started, but now we're going to do more. And we're going to do it in partnership and in coordination. And that is job one. Job two is saying our response is going to be law enforcement is not enough, because this is a complicated, complex, multifaceted issue. You have a lot of unaccompanied minors, you have a lot of lost youth who get sucked into the gang. There's a void that the gang fills. It's a dysfunctional relationship, but it gives that young person a sense of belonging. And they prey on those who are weak and those who are alone where there's a void. They actually spot them and they prey upon them. We have to fill that void before the gang fills that void. We have to get there first. And it's not enough to say to a young person, no, don't do this, no, don't do this, no, don't do this. There has to be something to say yes to. Don't do this. I get it. But where's my future? Where's my hope? Where's my direction? Where's my role model? Where am I going? Give me some positive as opposed to just the negative. That is our challenge, especially for many young people who come here who don't have a base of support, they don't have a friendship group, they are not comfortable with the language, and they are easy to get sucked into these gangs. That, my friends, is just as hard a task and just as essential a task as public safety. Phil Ramos, phenomenal representative, former police officer, talks about MS-13, talks about police, but talks just as vociferously about the social services and the apprenticeship program and the mentoring and a safe place to go at night and a coordination of resources so we're all doing this in one unified way instead of 20 agencies each doing their own thing with no comprehensive holistic approach. That's what the community center building is going to be all about. It's not just a building. It is the hub, the coordinative mechanism where we can all work together and we can coordinate and synchronize those services and the apprenticeship program and the mental health program so we have in one place everything that we need to do. And that's why the state is pleased to pledge $15 million to that community building, because it is just as important, it is an essential component, just as important as the police cars and the cameras and the monitors and the technology. And we're going to do both, and we're going to make Brentwood a model of the right way to do it, and we're going to do it together. And my last point is this. I want to applaud the members of the legislature who approved this funding, approved this budget. I'm only the governor. I get to recommend to the legislature, and then we have discussions, which are always fun and positive and upbeat. I love them. I live for them. It's my favorite time of year when we have those conversations. On this issue, there was no debate. There was no debate. We said we need to invest in police officers. We need to invest in community services. We need to do both. There was no debate. Why? Because it is right, and it is true, and it is smart. And it's not just smart for Brentwood or Suffolk or Nassau or Long Island. It's smart for the state of New York. If we don't reach out and connect with these young people now, at 14, 15 years old, you lose them. And you don't lose them for a little bit of time. You lose them for the rest of their lives. The cycle starts. Believe me, I've seen the cycle for too long, for too many years. I've seen the repeat, starting with the juvenile facility and then an alternative program and then in prison. And once you're incarcerated and you come out and you try to rehabilitate and try to get skills, but you have a record and you have to get a person a job. We can't fail. If we fail them at this point, we lose them for a lifetime. And that's that human potential lost. It is then a burden and a cost to the taxpayers of this state, if you want to just be totally practical. You know how much it costs to keep a person in a prison cell? $60,000 per year in a prison cell. $60,000 per year. Why is the state investing $15 million, $20 million in MS-13 and helping young people? I would much rather invest in a young person and a positive future than pay $60,000 a year to lock a person in a cell for the rest of their lives. So I thank the legislature for their support. I thank the first responders who are doing a fantastic job. I thank the community groups who have all been trying in their own way with few resources and trying to cobble together a sustainable program. And I'm proud that we can say MS-13 in Brentwood, unlike any other place in the country, because this is not just a New York problem, right? MS-13 and this type of gang violence is all across the country. Nobody is doing as much as we are, and no one is doing it as smart as we are. Thank you, and God bless you.